I want to make it clear to everybody, I am going to San Francisco. I will be representing TLAV. I'll be going every day to the trial, which is, as I said, it's 8 till 5, pretty much depending on how long it goes. So I'll be in there taking notes. If they'll allow me to bring in my computer, I'll try to live tweet, things like I did before. And we are raising money for that. I'm grateful to see Ryan was showing me we're almost to $1,000. We're aiming for about 6,000, and that's just kind of we're going big for it to let everybody know. I've already bought my flight from Mexico, where I live, to San Francisco. It cost me about $900. So the money there, that reimburses me for the flights cost. That's great. If we could raise even more money, we would like to get a hotel or something so I can be comfortable and safe and do the work I need to do for the potentially 2 weeks that we're going to be out there. And then it would be nice to be able to eat a little bit every day as well. So I mean, this isn't going to like buy me a new car or buy me some new shoes or anything like this. This is all straight going into the project so that I can be there in San Francisco in court every day. And then we'll probably be doing, if not daily, at least maybe probably weekly, bi-weekly conversations between me and Ryan to keep you guys informed, especially as we get the bombshells, which I expect they are going to have all 6 witnesses from the plaintiffs, the Fluoride Action Network. All the scientists are going to be there in person, and the government scientists, the sort of what they call the rent-a-coats, are going to be there in person too. So this opens up even more opportunities for potentially interviewing some of these scientists directly. So you don't even have to hear it directly from me or from Ryan. We'll talk to the scientists right after they testify in court and say, hey, can you tell the people what you just said in court and why they should be concerned about this? So there's a
Mhm.
lot of potential here for getting some good content, producing, obviously I'm going to be producing a number of written articles. We'll be producing video reports, interviews, articles. Maybe it'll end up turning into a little mini documentary, depending on how things go. Because as I
Nice.
said, this could be the end of water fluoridation, or at least a major step towards ending water fluoridation in the U.S. So
Sure
anybody
hope
who's
so.
got $5 extra, we appreciate it. I appreciate it. Like I said, it's all going into our fund here, so we can make sure to give you guys the best coverage.
One of the most obvious and really one of the most painfully obvious parts of this, this been talked about for as long as I've ever been doing this work. And I think it's been provable that long that fluoride is one, a dangerous byproduct that has no real benefit at all for anybody consuming it. But on top of that, that they know that they've been pushed. Don't be, I mean, we can get into the whys, but at the very least, because they'd otherwise have to pay to dispose of it, where now they're making you pay to put it in your water. So give us a quick background on this work, why that's important, and then let's talk about
Sure.
what you're trying to do with the trial.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, as you said, like we've had evidence. I've been researching fluoride since 2010. The evidence was there then, and honestly, I've learned quite a bit in my research just this year of doing, work preparing for this trial to resume and stuff. And the fact is that there have been scientists warning about fluoride lowering IQ since at least the 1950s, pretty much right when it began. And thankfully, we got to a point in 2016 where the Fluoride Action Network and the Food and Water Watch and several others, as plaintiffs, decided to sue the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, because the EPA denied their petition. They basically filed a petition under the Toxic Substance Control Act, which was passed in 2016, and it allows citizens to go to the government and say, hey, we believe this substance is toxic. You need to regulate it or ban it. So the Fluoride Action Network filed a petition. The EPA denied it, ignored it. So then they filed a lawsuit. That was back in 2016. Here we are, 2023, going on 2024, and we're still not done with this trial yet. But in the summer of 2020, it actually began. And of course, everything was locked down then. So I started reporting on it for TLAB in June, and then it wrapped up in August. And it was taking place in San Francisco, but everybody was on Zoom. And I just followed I've done quite a bit of court reporting. It's kind of a different specific type of reporting because you got to be
Mhm.
just ready to like catch as many things, especially when you're not sitting there listening to Zoom where you can screen record and listen to
Right.
later. Like if you're there in person, you just got to be writing as fast as you can, getting all the notes. And there's a lot to it, but I do enjoy doing it because, and I think it's important work because whether we're talking about the fluoride trial or any other trial, you're not going to get the full picture if you're not there in person or if somebody's not reporting live in person because the mainstream is just going to give you the top headline of the day. And
Right.
as we've seen with this fluoride lawsuit, this fluoride trial, there has been no mainstream reporting at all. The only reporting we've found from anything that could be slightly considered mainstream would be Bloomberg Law, which is not really even mainstream. It's like a division of Bloomberg that focuses on legal cases and stuff, and it's like subscription only. So it's not like being seen by that many people. There has
Mhm.
been no major reporting by any of the corporate media outlets acknowledging like, hey, the fact, which is like, you don't have to necessarily say fluoride is going to kill people, even though we have the evidence for the IQ harm and all that, but at least to acknowledge this is a historic trial. The thing that the CDC claims, one of the things that the CDC claims is the top health achievement of the 20th century,
Right.
along with vaccines and everything else, is now on trial. And there are Harvard scientists and some of the most credentialed professionals when it comes to this science warning and talking about the data they found. And even just in that first year of the trial, my reporting showed that we know it lowers IQ. That
Mhm.
Harvard scientist Philip Grandjean said that he was threatened for his conclusions about fluoride. He said that the fluoride lobby has taken over the World Health Organization. I mean, there's so many little bits and pieces of nuggets that came out because I was following this case. And essentially, what happened is at the end of 2020, it got delayed. They said they wanted to wait for some more studies to come out, including that study there. They were waiting for the National Toxicology Program. But as we've learned since then, the National Toxicology Program, they still have not publicly officially released their report on fluoride, but we have two draft versions of it from May 2022
Right.
and September 2022, where these scientists at the National Toxicology Program, in their own words, say that the study was done, it was ready for public release, and their conclusions were that fluoride does cause lower IQ in children, in
Right.
addition to many other problems. So that we have that information, the government's just refusing to make it official by releasing it. And then we also have, through emails that were released through the trial, we saw that the head of the Human Services, Rachel Levine,
Mhm.
was involved, as well as some other officials, was involved with blocking the release of this data and this information. So I mean, we have clear examples here that this chemical is a toxin, as we've known before, but now it's in court records, now it's in federal courts. We've got federal government scientists fighting to get their science to the people, and we've got different US government officials doing everything they can to block the release of that data. And so that's all been going on in the background. And
Mm.
now where we're at, the judge Edward Chin has they're finally going to have the second phase of the trial. Basically that since that study never came out, the NTP study, we have the draft versions. The judge said, okay, we'll look at the draft version. You can bring back some witnesses. We'll look at any new studies that have been done since 2020. And it's starting again January 30th in San Francisco. It'll now be in person, and it's going to run for 2 weeks, January 30th to February 14th. And since we're going to be in person now, and they're not even doing Zoom anymore, so there's not even an option for me to do it remotely. I am going to be going in person to San Francisco. It might not last the whole 2 weeks, but that's what the court has kind of slated for that time. So that's kind of where we're at now. And the goal with this article is just to remind everybody, like, hey, this is still going on in case you forgot. And
Mhm.
I kind of list just a little 4 summary points, which I just kind of covered, of some of the past reporting, because I do think there's just I like everything we've covered here today. Like, why are more people not talking about the pesticide issue? Why
Mhm.
why is this fluoride trial not front and center? I mean, besides us, and I got to go on the high wire with Del Bigtree, a few other outlets, there really has not been any coverage, of course, from the corporate media, as I mentioned, but even very little coverage from the alternative independent media. When this could be, I know there's a lot going on, but this could be a victory for us. If this trial
Yeah.
goes the way that it should, this could spell the end of water fluoridation in the United States. Now, it's very difficult to even imagine something good like that happening because there's a lot of forces going up against, the people trying to wake people up to this. But there's some potential here to start 2024 out on a good foot. Now, of course, even if the judge did rule that fluoride is a toxin, we probably will be locked in legal battles for years. I mean, there's going to be
Yeah.
appeals. There's going to, so, and who knows, would the CDC even act if the judge says, hey, you know what, based on the
Right.
evidence, we know fluoride is a toxin, it violates the TSCA, and action needs to be taken. But we know how the government works. That could be a year of legal blah blah whatever, and in the meantime, people are still being exposed to this toxin. I mean, I
They're
hope that's
they're
not what happens, but it's possible.
Yeah, they think about this, guys. They're literally going to be using, if that's the case, your tax dollars to fight to keep you unhealthy. Like they really think about how that looks. That this whole time they know this is dangerous, and they have a vested interest in keeping this in your water. Like it just these are these examples that really highlight what the real structure is. Not every individual with their individual actions, but what the government as an entity is. It is not about your safety or your interests. I mean, at one point, maybe, but it's so blatantly obvious with stuff just like this. And that's the craziest thing to me, as Derrick just outlined, right? That what we're talking about here is that the information has already been revealed. It's been leaked. We already know what they're fighting for you not to see. And so that means if Derrick can see it, if we can publish it on TLAV, if others, and Dell and others, David Knight, for example, gave TLAV and you a shout out, was talking about the work recently. David Knight, who left InfoWars, they had kind of a riff. But so the idea being is that it's all there. So ask yourself, if it is there and we can prove it's real, and it is, it's not debatable, where are the bigger names? Where are the corporate media? Like, this is something that should matter to anybody who genuinely is interested in exposing this truth. But of course, this is how this tends to go, the flow of information, right? This won't matter for people in those fields until it's something that they could probably benefit from, or that it's something that they're allowed to look into. The point is just, again, demonstrating our value, demonstrating Derrick's excellent work, and being ahead of this story so far that you'll realize that he was years ahead. And this is not about like Derrick's opinion on what fluoride is. We're talking again about information coming from a government report that proves all the things he's been saying, the IQ issues, and even worse, the the toxicity in general, and it just doesn't do anything. In fact, again, they fight to keep it in your water. I mean, it's just so mind blowing to me, and I'm willing to bet you, as soon as this becomes something prominent, hopefully it does, either way, that's a win. But mark my words, it's going to be something that Tucker Carlson or somebody like that briefly points to, gives you half the story, and then probably fights for some other angle for why it still should be used from some Republican reason. Like, that's what I keep seeing, like the AI conversation. And maybe we can finish on this if you'd like to comment. Now the Republican side of Alex Jones just had Natural News, Mike Adams on, and they were literally arguing about how this AI is bad, but here's how we can use AI to fight back. And again, I'm never one to dismiss that conversation using the kind of tech, but it's interesting for me. AI of all things, I think, is I'll use some tech to fight back, but that kind of concept, I'm completely on an absolute no-go kind of mentality. But I think that's an interesting step, and to show you how it all of a sudden becomes the thing that was absolutely not possible is now, well, because the right-wing people say we might consider it from this angle, now suddenly it works, and the same in the left. Anyway, back to the fluoride. Go ahead. Well, if you want to comment on that, I went all over the place.
No, it's good. I mean, I definitely could foresee something like what you're describing there, where we get to a point of, I mean, because the thing is, even people like Alex Jones, he was one of the first person that I heard talking about this back in 2010. I don't hear him
Right.
talk so much about fluoride anymore. And obviously his views and his approach have changed quite a bit. He went from being the person warning everybody about the left-right paradigm to telling everybody to stay in the left-right paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, I think that there, funky stuff like that could happen, but at the end of the day, we have the truth, we have the information. I hope we get some more coverage. I didn't see the David Knight coverage, so shout out to him. He does good work. I hope we get more people. I don't even really care about the credit at the end of the day if the information gets out there. Yes, it's nice when people show us some love because they know that we've been putting in the work, and I have sat through hours and hours of court proceedings to get this information to everybody, and that is tedious and sometimes mind numbing. But I'm prepared to do it again.